Alright, Guillaume's video, take one.
5 minutes later.
Hey guys, welcome to this new video. In today's video, I'm with Vin and we're gonna talk about his relocation from the US to Vietnam. And because we made a video probably 3 years ago, I'm very curious about your perspective right now about Vietnam. If you are interested into topics such as moving to Vietnam, doing business and investments in Vietnam, you can check below in the description. You will have few links and resources so you can learn more about that. Hey Vin, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you, Guillaume.
So Vin, we met about 3 years ago. I remember at that time when you were relocating from Da Nang to Ho Chi Minh City. Can you tell us a bit about your journey moving from the US to Vietnam and then your first step in Vietnam?
Sure, so in 2017, I decided to move from Minnesota, where I'm from, and then I started 6 months in Chiang Mai, Thailand, actually. And so I started there, and then I wanted to relocate and be based in Da Nang, Vietnam, which is kind of a beach resort in the middle of the country, yes.
And so you choose finally, after a year living there, right, to move to Ho Chi Minh City. What was the major reason at that time?
Da Nang is beautiful. It's much smaller. There's mountains, there's the ocean. And living costs are much lower than Saigon. But after living there for maybe 11 or 12 months, I wanted more networking events or cultural arts to attend. So I was missing that in Da Nang. So after visiting friends in Saigon a few times, going out, going to rooftop bars, things like that, going to networking events, I said, I have to be in Saigon. So a year later, February in 2019, I made the move to Saigon.
Yeah, I feel that actually in Vietnam, the place to be if you want to do business, if you are in this mindset of starting your online journey, starting a hustle business, etc., is Saigon, basically. Everyone can try a little bit, staying in Da Nang, doing their digital nomad things, but after a while, most of those people are moving to Ho Chi Minh City because it's where you have most of the dynamism, you know, a lot of foreign-owned companies, a lot of events, a lot of like-minded people to meet. So it's basically the city you have to be if you like Vietnam and you have also this business mindset. So Vin, my question, like Vin Ho 3 years ago versus Vin Ho now, what have been the major differences in perspective you have toward Vietnam?
Originally, I came to Vietnam for several different reasons. One, I wanted to get in sourcing and exports. So I wanted to check out that industry. I wanted to do more dating for my personal life. So I did do that. So I think Vietnam, Saigon in general, is a very exciting place. It's a great place to come if you're 20s, 30s, 40s, or older, and you want to live an exciting lifestyle. You want to have a great dating life, a great nightlife, and you want to have more freedom, more time on your hands to enjoy life. I think Saigon and Vietnam in general offers that. So I would say when I first came to Vietnam, that was what I was chasing.
So that's what you had in Da Nang, that's what you had at the beginning in Ho Chi Minh City. And after, I guess, also you finally settle a bit more, you work on more deep projects. Maybe you had some of your business that you were pushing that you managed to have some results, some traction. How was the switch finally from this kind of fresh discovery of Vietnam to maybe some mindset that you were more focused on your business? Maybe you got a girlfriend or maybe you got married, we don't know, but maybe you more settle on that side as well. So I guess you change also in the mindset of seeing also the opportunities in Vietnam.
Like I mentioned, Vietnam and Saigon is a great place to have fun, anything like that. But after a while, for someone like me that's settling down, that wants to start a family, my priorities and perspective changes a little bit. I'm looking for some long-term into the future, to be more stable, and maybe to own a home and to be near my family, my parents, things like that. So that's kind of what's on my mind, and that's kind of how I've changed a little bit. Saigon, again, is still fun and cheap, affordable. I love going out, getting breakfast or eating on a whim and anything like that. So that's something I will definitely miss. But at the same time, when I think in the future, I want to own a home and I want to be closer to friends and family, that's something that's I want to think about.
So you are explaining that you are moving back to the US, right? So after 5 years living in Vietnam, what was the reasons why you choose to go back to the US? And you mentioned also owning a home. Is it something that you find struggling or difficult?
It really depends on what you want. I think for me, Vietnam was a great place to have fun and to travel and to explore business. And for me now, like I said, I think I want to have something more stable. And then I want to also, even though I love Vietnam, I love Saigon, I also love Minneapolis and St. Paul, Minnesota, and the United States. So I still want to have that experience. I think that's what I'm aiming for in the next 3 months, the next 3 years.
Okay, yeah. So for you, long-term living in Vietnam may be challenging right after a time. If you want to settle, sometimes you always have like either your family, but you miss your home of the US, right? And you think it's the good time to go back to the US and to start a new journey?
Yes, because I'm more familiar with American culture, the rule of law, rules and regulations. It's much easier for me. In Vietnam, again, you can run a business, but then I'm still a foreigner in terms of like owning land or an apartment or anything like that. So I'm still a foreigner in Vietnam. So there are different rules and regulations. Whereas in America, I've been living there most of my life, pretty much until now. So I'm very, very familiar. And there are things I want to see and do and accomplish in America. So I have some goals that I want to pursue. I think it's a good time to go. I've given Vietnam about 4 or 5 years, like you mentioned. It's been a great ride. I've had so much fun. I still want to be involved in Vietnam. I want to be traveling to Vietnam in the future, but at the same time, when I want to think about where I want to create a base for me and my family, I want to live in Minnesota, in the Twin Cities, be based there and be closer to my parents, and then I can travel to Vietnam occasionally when business brings me here.
Okay, so we talk a little bit more about your future plan toward Vietnam. You say something that if someone want to stay long term in Vietnam, there will always be a foreigner. There will always be not a Vietnamese. You have some Vietnamese roots, and actually you do speak Vietnamese pretty well. Even with this background, you don't feel that you can be part 100% of the Vietnamese for you? Like settling long term in Vietnam, you will always have this struggle?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I will always be a foreigner in the Vietnamese eyes just because my mannerisms, my thinking, and the way I communicate. I've always been clumsy with my Vietnamese. I can speak basic, but just the day-to-day actions and things like that, I'm still a foreigner. And so it's hard for me to lay roots here, deep roots anyway. I think it's great for business, coming short term, vacation, traveling, entertainment. But for me, what I'm looking for is something else and things I want to accomplish in the US.
Okay, so it's interesting because it gives also the perspective of someone who would like to settle long term. Even if they are Viet Q from overseas, they come back to Vietnam to probably push a career for 5 to 10 years. It's interesting to see that even with this profile, you will never be at least seen from the local as a Vietnamese. So of course, for someone like myself, you totally accept that. You will know that you will never be able to fully integrate, even if you can master, for instance, the language. But it's good to know that even for Viet Q, sometimes it's hard to really feel belonging to a place. I think that's a matter that is also important for some people who are moving definitely to Vietnam, to also be fully integrating into the environment, and that is something that may still be unsolved. Let's say you are talking to someone that is also probably a Viet Q or someone that is considering staying long term in Vietnam. What piece of advice you would tell them?
It really depends on what your goals are. I think most people, especially my age, are looking for a significant other to date someone seriously. So that might be something to keep in mind. If it's for maybe getting close or understanding the culture, the motherland, something like that, that's another reason people would come to Vietnam to live longer term. It could be also a career move because, as you know, there are a lot of opportunities in Asia, specifically with Vietnam in terms of manufacturing, sourcing. Vietnam's on the rise. The economy is very strong, so entrepreneurs might see things there. So I think you have to decide what you want to get out of your experience and what's your goal, pretty much, whether it be career, is it fun, entertainment, or anything like that. Or maybe you're just sick and tired of your job in America and you want to change, and maybe that's a good place to start is Vietnam.
Okay, so 3 years ago we were saying that Vietnam is very easy to settle in, it's very easy to get visa, it's very easy to rent an apartment. Now, after COVID, things has been a little bit more challenging. If you don't have any roots to Vietnam to get like long-term visa, etc., there are still obviously opportunities, as you mentioned, in sourcing, manufacturing, supply chain. But are you still very optimistic on the future for Vietnam with this inflation going worldwide, the slowing down of the economy in the next couple of trimesters that are expected, etc.? What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I'm very optimistic about Vietnam in general in terms of the economy, the opportunities, where things are heading. Vietnam reminds me of China 15, 20 years ago. There's so much foreign direct investment. There's so much opportunity happening here. And it's kind of like the Wild West, right? Because there's opportunity, whether it be F&B or manufacturing or technology. Labor is still cheap here, and there's gaps in maybe education or other areas that you could add value to. So that's something to keep in mind. So in general, I would say I'm very positive on Vietnam. It really depends on what you want to do and what you want to contribute and things like that.
So yeah, still opportunities, and then you are very optimistic about the future. What you would tell to basically like-minded people like you who just land in Vietnam, they don't know anyone, they want to explore the opportunities here. How should they get started?
Yeah, I think you really have to put yourself out there and be social and then create that network, right? Because wherever you come from, a different city or a different country, you don't have that network when you arrive here. So I think meeting others is very, very crucial. And there's a few different ways to do that. One is to join like a business association. So there's AmCham, there's AustCham, there's the EuroCham, and then Hong Kong, I think, our Singapore group. So lots of business events that they have maybe once a month. There's also something called internations.org. If you want to make friends with other expats, that's another place to go. And if you're VQ, so if you're overseas Vietnamese like myself, and you're looking for maybe the similar age group and some others that have come from California, from France and Germany, and you want to meet other Vietnamese overseas, there's something called Saigon VietQs. So you can join that group. There's once a month events. For example, we had a Thanksgiving party last month. In a couple weeks, we'll have a Christmas party. So maybe 100 or 80 or 75 people will come out. And then it's a great place to network and socialize, because I think you'll need a network, a group of friends, because you'll be leaving that when you come to Saigon, and you have to kind of put yourself out there, make new friends. And I think that's very, very important. And that's going to make or break your experience in Saigon, in Vietnam in general, and your expat experience.
Yeah, I mean, going to such events is very ice-breaking. You can meet dozens of people in one night. You told me a bit the type of people that were there. They are pretty high level, right? You told me some people coming here for investments with very good background overseas, etc. So that's also the type of people you can find in a hub city like Ho Chi Minh City.
The type of people that are here, you've got those that are having fun for the next few weeks. They're passing through, they're backpacking. But then you get other expats that are making a living through entrepreneurship, or those are professionals. They used to work for corporate. So it runs the gamut of skill sets and education and people's goals and ambitions. So you meet all of that.
Okay, Vin, very interesting. What are your next plan? You are leaving beginning of next year. You want to settle back a bit with your parents and after maybe relocate somewhere not so far. What are your plans on the business and your next journey on the entrepreneurship side?
Yeah, so I'll be back in Florida with my parents, and we'll be based there for the next year or so. And I'm working with Guillaume in terms of sourcing products and offering some services. So I'll work on that. And I'm also looking at digital marketing and some technology services to offer in Florida. And then after maybe 2 years or so, I would love to lay some roots in Minnesota, where I came from, where I grew up, Minneapolis and St. Paul. I would love to be up there for the long term. And then, like I said, have one foot in America, and then business takes me to Vietnam or Asia in general every quarter maybe, or twice a year. That's my ideal. That's my dream.
Yeah, I mean, it's true that now with the background that we are having, we visited a lot of manufacturers here. We know what Vietnam can be good at in terms of making goods. And having Vin that will be based in the US, we will be able to have both perspectives. So the manufacturing side here, what are the new products that are available here, or at least what the manufacturers can do. And directly in the US, what the consumer is asking for, right? So I think it will be very interesting when we be at this stage to have our both perspective and being able to basically provide to each other. Maybe here, visiting new manufacturers for clients or for ourselves. And then on the US side, being able to see what can be imported, what can be sold on Amazon FBA, etc. So probably a lot of new things that can be done at that time, yeah.
Yes, exactly. So even though physically I'll be moving back to the USA, but definitely we'll have some projects that I'll be working on with Guillaume, and then hopefully coming through the region every so often.
Yeah. Okay, thanks Vin for your update about your life in Vietnam, your next plan for the next upcoming months. If you guys have any question, anything you want to ask Vin about what we've been discussing today, feel free to drop us a comment below. We will read through all the different comments and answer them fast. If you enjoy the video, leave a thumbs up, and I see you in the next video. Thanks Vin.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Down and I'ma get it right. Then I'll sight like